All right, Lynn, let's get busy here. All right, now I'm saying Lynn, but this lesson could go for anyone. But what we're doing is we're working someone through kind of some concepts in terms of, we're starting them off with lighting, kind of just based on some of the designs that they had purchased. Now, these pieces that I'm going to be working on are 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 standard quarter size pieces of paper. I have a couple pieces of just some semi-gloss here, but you can use anything for this lesson. Go ahead and use matte. You can use copy paper or something like that. It's kind of preferable to go with a little bit of a nicer paper, though, even when you're doing kind of exercises. A ream of some semi-gloss cardstock doesn't cost too much, and a ream of it's like 200 sheets or 250 sheets, and I don't know, comes at a reasonable price, but kind of a little bit smoother is better. But like I said, you can practice this on any type of surface that you want. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using tree trunk right here, and what we're going to be doing is kind of getting the concept down for shadows, because something like this, just stamped alone, I mean, it looks okay, but when you start anchoring your trees down with shadows, it's really where kind of the character of the pieces come into play. All right, so right here I have my lighting coming from in here, and we see these shadows being created on the grassy areas like this. Okay. Winter type of scene. I just have my lighting coming from that way, so the shadows are going this way right in here. And I'll show you where to create those angles, okay? So the lighting is coming from here, so you see the shadows are kind of going this way this time, okay? And here we have our wood grain paper. We have our, I don't know, that could be a sun or a moon, but you can see the shadow directions change in relation to our light source. Now, we don't always have a physical light source in there, like something so, I don't know, so obvious, like an orb of light in there, okay? But you can have an area of light, such as this right here, and that is creating our lighting. Okay, so what I'll be doing is I'll just be stamping this in black ink. Okay, let's do one of them right here on camera, and then we'll switch up a little bit, and we'll just I'll do some off camera just to expedite the entire process here. Okay, so Lynn is a gentleman that had a stroke, and I'm very familiar with that. My dad had a stroke. And what we want to do, ideally, if you can, Lynn, is get, kind of figure out some kind of process in which you can do your own stamping. Like a stamp positioner is going to be perfect for you. If you can do something like that, you can use your strong arm, do something like this, and you can change the position of your stamp, just single-handedly, and that would be perfect. So I think that's a perfect opportunity for a stamp positioner like a Misty or like a Tim Holtz stamp positioner or something like that. You have your unmounted stamp. It could be on the lid, and you just ink up like, well, left-handed like this, and ink up your stamp like that. So one thing, when we're learning these concepts right here, don't get kind of caught up into too much of the mechanics of that. That'll come. But let's get the concept of the lighting really down, okay? Because that's going to be the big thing. The mechanics will follow. So if you get like some stamp impressions that are misstamped, you missed half of the stamp or something like that, don't worry about that and don't toss it, okay? Get your just your concepts in terms of your lighting down, and what we want to tap into is some of that previous, drawing experience. Hopefully you kind of pick up some of that drawing again and get into some of that. So let's dip into that, and let's get and employ that, some of your old, kind of techniques and such. Okay, now one of the things with trees, I'm going to kind of change the height of these a little bit from one to the next, okay? And kind of stagger a little bit, have them kind of positioned a little bit close to one another, So let's say right here, I'll go maybe right around in here. don't worry if you overlap too much again. Let's not worry about some of the mechanics of it, because lesson's really about lighting and shadows. So let's just have these be kind of more of the I don't know, just the structure for kind of getting some repetition down. Okay, so don't worry about if you're stamping them out yourself and kind of getting into the swing of it. If you get an impression like that, or something like that, you know what I mean? Don't worry about it. Just utilize that for the lesson itself. It's about the concepts right here. All right, so you see that like that? Let me get a couple more of these stamped out, and I'm going to do this off camera. I would say about 3 impressions is kind of the max, but you can always stamp way off the page too and just use a little bit of that. But it's kind of good to have some framing, so I generally do put things on the outside. I usually don't go like 2 trunks out here with the open area out there. You could, if you want to make some kind of I don't know, compositional kind of point about something, but I usually do frame off things pretty much with the, a couple impressions on both sides when it comes to the tree trunk here. So let me do a few more of these, and let's get into that lighting technique. Okay, we have 3, I don't know, whatever, compositional foundations right here for our lighting. You can see this one right here. I would never do a composition like this normally, where this is like dead center like that. But it'd be perfect for this lighting kind of experiment, because I can, change my shadow direction in whatever way that I want to. And there's plenty of space on each side like that, okay? This one right here, this one's a little bit closer, so I only have like this lighting kind of has this little really narrow kind of passageway to get through there, okay? And this one right here is just stamped out on the wood grain paper. It's like a really cheap wood grain paper, but I sent something out to them to stamp on, because it's it's really pretty dynamic surface to stamp on, and it's just cool, and it's really conducive for scenic stamping. Okay, let's get to it right here. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of decide upon a light source, okay? And one of the things I asked if they had was, do they have colored pencils, okay? This is just a black colored pencil right here. You can use a charcoal pencil or anything like that. We can even do this in dye-based inks, or, alcohol pens or something like that. It's not too, it's just to kind of get the concept down of your lighting direction though, okay? It's not to create these, incredibly blended, beautiful works of art, you know what I mean, or something like that in terms of, getting the concept of this down. But let's get right into it here. Okay, now on this piece right here, I have this little peekaboo area where light, as if light was in the background somewhere, and it's kind of coming through here, okay? Now there's other types of lighting that you saw, like my light beams and things that you can add in here. But this is just working on the shadows, and in my opinion, just shadows really anchor down our subject matter, and it gives them mass and stability. It gives your pieces scenic stability, okay? All right, so let's just do this right here, and there's just no easier way to do it than just to choose kind of a location within your page, and that's going to be our light source. So I'm just going to put in, like an X right here, okay? And that's going to be my light source. All right. Now, you can take a ruler if you want to, or something like that, just to kind of get the feel of this right here. But at the base of these objects, that's where my shadow is going to be cast from, okay? So we'll go into the center of that X right there. And I don't know, you can just take a piece of paper like this, and just to get the kind of the gist of it, and just take your pencil right here. All right, Len, I can't do this left-handed, but I'll try it right here. Okay, so I'm just kind of doing a little scratch right there. That's the direction that shadow is going to be cast right here, but I take it like this right here, okay? And this is going to be the general direction of that. So you see my shadows are like that, but then we're going to come over here, get that right there, and then you can just kind of take your pencil, go like that, okay? Now over here, the shadow for this one is right in here, and the shadow for this is right here too, okay? But this is roughly the shadow, angle, like right here. So it's kind of going like this. So you see the angle gets a little bit more extreme each time, all right? But what we do here is now, I mean, if we're doing something really super kind of dramatic, you know, we can make a shadow really dark and even going from our objects that are casting that shadow, okay? But one of the things that I like to do is, let me go back to my pieces. Here, I like to transition my shadows generally. Now this is an ink, not in colored pencil, but so it's a little bit darker by next to my object. And as it moves out here, it kind of gets a little bit lighter. It transitions, or the shadow dissipates, okay? That's generally what I like to do. And that's what I'm going to suggest that you do. So one of the things that we start doing is we start laying down a really light shade like this, okay? And then what we'll start doing, you know, later on is we'll start employing this concept, and we'll do it with some inks. We'll do it with some wet media, okay? But just keep it nice and loose here, you know? All right, go a little bit deeper like this. Okay, now here, I'm going like this. And I try to keep my edges here kind of somewhat light. You know what I mean? I have that line right there, but I just drew it in really lightly. So let's go like this. So what you do is you come in with an even application like this, okay? Like this, okay? Come up and do the tree too, you know, because the tree is going to be a little bit shaded as well, like this. Or a lot shaded, you know, depending on, you know, what the lighting is within the piece like that. But you can see those shadows being cast like that. Now, let's transition it a little bit more. Go a little bit more at the base of the trunk, like this. And as I'm going on like this, what I'm doing is as I'm coming over here, go with a little bit more pressure like this. I mean, it's still kind of light to the touch. And then as I move over here, I'm going lighter like that. See what I mean? So a little bit more repetition here, but you can keep your pressure the same, but maybe you stay here a little bit longer. Then as you move down here, you see it goes faster. So you don't have to change your kind of touch. You can just go with more reps where you want it to be darker like this, okay? Now, if it was inks that I'm doing, maybe with a wet ink, I'm kind of going a little bit more like that. And then as I'm transitioning down there, I'm doing it with a kind of a drier applicator, okay? So let's go in here like so, okay. Now this is like really fundamental type stuff. It's if I were doing like a beginning drawing class or something like that, or illustration, we're typically doing it monochromatically like this, and we're starting with traditional media, okay, charcoals, graphite, you know, whatever, Conte crayons, stuff like that, okay. So the big thing is, it's kind of transitions, okay? Now you can see, I mean, my piece right here isn't like, you know, all kind of blockbuster or anything like that. But now here's a little thing too. Okay, so this is my lighting right here, okay? Let's make the side of the trunks a little bit darker on the far side of the tree trunks opposite our light source, okay? So you know how we transitioned right here from darker and lighter as it moves away from that point like this, okay? You got to get some kind of thing to where you can anchor. You utilize that offhand of yours, okay? So to hold down your piece like this, then you can just kind of move it around like this. We want to utilize that offhand, okay, in this exercise. But let's go like this. Now see how I turned this upside down, because I can do this now. You're lefty, so you can do it like, you know, like here. It's probably going to be easier if you can switch this around. So watch this right here. So I'm going like here on my off side like this, okay? And then we're transitioning it this way. So we're going a little bit more reps over here And then as I move over this way, maybe just leave it as is, okay? So you see that lighting in? You can see the difference between these two right here. Now let's do it on these two trees over here, okay? So we're going with this, like so. And this is the thing that when we start utilizing that, when we start stamping out some full scenes, which we can get to pretty soon. It's not like, I'm not going to take a semester to work on just shading, before we get to any finished pieces here. But this is where the drama comes in, okay? Look at that. Look at that lighting now on these trunks right here. Isn't that looking pretty cool already? I want you to have a lot of kind of impact and kind of emotional quality to your pieces. And to create that, lighting is a really big part of that. And it's about value, so it's about light and dark. It's about color too, color can be something like that. But if you have lighting down, all right, it's a big, big part of it, okay? So if you have your your concepts of value down, light, dark, shadow, lighting, it's going to be a big, big plus when it comes to the utilization of color. Okay, so you see this right here? Look at those trees right there. Okay, let's do it here. We can do a comparison contrast with it right there, okay? All right, let's take a look at another one right here. And then let's do something fun with this one right here. Okay, so let's say, now, I put all my cards, by the way, it's really smudgy, okay? But again, that's, you know what I mean? We're getting these kind of lighting concepts down. Transitions, darker to lighter out here. I mean, it's dark down here, but it's, darker a little bit there, and it's transition here, transition from here, darker to lighter over here, okay? And it doesn't have to transition equally every time, you maybe have more of this one shaded, I don't know, this one's a little bit less and this one's a little bit less. See, I left a lot of this light just to contrast against this tree that's right next to it, okay? All right, but, okay, so what I'm getting at is, let's say there's a source of light. It doesn't have to be in an open area, okay? But let's make this one, let's just choose, right, someplace within this trunk right here. So the light source is behind this tree, okay? Now, if we do it, now, a light source can be like off the page too, so we get these angles that are really kind of angled off, and that makes for a really dramatic piece. But for the sake of this one, let's just keep it right here. Let me do a circle right here, okay? I don't know if you can see that right there. But let's do it again. Let's figure out our kind of our angles, okay? So we can go like this. Just do a really light kind of angle like this right here. Okay, and we'll come over here. Like that. See those angles like that? I mean, you don't even have to do the full thing. And you can also just kind of eyeball it. You can go like this. Again, this one right here, maybe I should have stamped this one a little bit higher up, but this one went way down. But let's see. Get the angles roughly like that. All right, so you see our shadow angles now. And see that kind of that perspective where it's going back into a single point perspective, they call it. So you create these shadows like that, and it really creates this really kind of a correct vanishing point for these shadows, and it changes the directions of all of them. And these little angles right here, kind of like angles within pieces, it creates kind of visual movement too, rather than having everything really stacked like bricks or something like that, where everything's like horizontal or something like that. You create these little angles like that, and it draws the viewer in as well. Okay, so let me just do a quick, shading thing of this shading thing, transitions, okay? And I'll show you what that looks like, but let me pause this and let me get through some of that. Okay, I just spent like, I don't know, that probably took me 60 seconds or something like that to these three, because this is the only one that has kind of a lot of you know, whatever, runway right here. These other ones are really short, but let me kind of refine this a little bit more. This, a little bit scratchy, but again, I'm not spending too much time right here because, again, we just want to get kind of the concept of this down. Now, if you did this in like watercolor pencils or something like that, you can go back in with a paintbrush and kind of smooth that out a little bit, and that'd be pretty cool too. I'll have to see if Joni has some of those. All right, let's see. Let's go a little bit darker right here on this one. Okay. Let's go up the trunk and out from the shadow area like that. But see that right there? You can kind of change it, you know. Sometimes there's lighting coming from in here, and it's, making one side of the shadow a little bit lighter, you know what I mean? So you can be going from dark to light, but it can also be going from dark to lighter like that too. Okay? And there's no, right or wrong or anything like that. Okay? Remember that lighting is coming from right there. So on this one, maybe I can kind of darken up the right side of this trunk right here. Flip it around. Lighting is coming from over here on this one, so let's change the lighting right here on this one. Now I'm just doing it in black, but when we start doing things in color, we can utilize color to create kind of richer shadows. We can employ warm and cool tones or something like that within the the shadow structures here. All right, so there you go. There's kind of some anchoring right there. Let's go a little bit darker right here, I think. All right, so get that right there. How's that look? My shadows with my colored pencil, I think they look better on this one, the second one, than the first one. So I'm kind of improving a little bit. Let me take a look at this one now. Okay. I know I said, we're not going for these masterpieces or anything like that. Just get the concept down. But let me kind of get this one a little bit more. It looked better kind of going a little bit darker, or quite a bit darker. I mean, if you're using like a matte paper, it'd probably be better than the semi-gloss, because the semi-gloss is a little bit sealed up, and kind of colored pencils need a little bit of a kind of tooth to the paper to, really apply a little bit better. There we go. That looks better. And see, I went a little bit darker on my trunks here on the right-hand side, so the left, it stands out a little bit more by contrast, okay? All right, so we have that going right here. But now, okay, this is black and white right here. I mean, you're going to get bored, doing that too much, so I get that. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually have a little bit of a light source. So again, I need to see, I know Joni has some white pigment ink. So you're going to take a Q-tip, or cotton ball, not Q-tip, but now if you have like a 1-inch hole punch, that'd be great. Or if you can do some kind of little circle like this, it could be smaller too, but let's choose a spot within the scene, and that instead of having this little X right here, okay? And this would be fantastic if you have colored paper too, like a blue or something like that. Okay. Now we haven't gotten into lighting yet. We're doing mostly shadows right here. Okay, but let's do this. Let's create a little bit of a, I don't know, whatever you see this as, that's what it is. So it's either a sun or a moon. Okay. It could be peeking out from behind a tree too. So you can put it coming out from behind a tree. I have just enough space to do this whole one in here. This is a 1-inch hole punch right here, okay? And there's our light right there, okay? So let's employ our lighting scheme. Now, this is a big circle right here instead of like an X where we can go straight in the middle of it, but I usually choose the middle of it, okay? Now let me just kind of eyeball this. Okay, so I'm going like this, and this is going to be roughly the angle like this, okay? So see, I'm kind of going like this with this hand. just to get that angle. And right here, it's like this, roughly, okay? And let me see. This, well, I didn't leave space in between like this. I guess it would be better for this exercise right here, but let's do that thing. Let's do that shadow thing right here, okay? So that's a nice even shadow right there, but let's transition it because it looks kind of awkward like that. So laying it down right here. See, there's no space in between, so there's no like little sliver of light coming through, okay? All right, so there's our kind of mono value shadow in there. It doesn't really look like shadows to me. So what we're going to do is we're going to do that thing where we transition this a little bit more. So a little bit darker next to the base of the trunk, and then you transition it away. I don't know if we can see this right here, but if I put my, I don't know, my studio lights are kind of filling in, but okay, well here, see that shadow right here? That shadow right here is a little bit darker, and then see this over here? So this is what you're doing. It's a little bit darker over here, and then you see it dissipates out that way. See that? It's more defined right there, and it's more kind of diffused, okay? And here's the same shadow over here that I'm creating, but it's the strongest right here, all right? So that's what you're kind of doing, or representing, okay? The dissipation of that, whatever, you know, the definition of the shadows being a little bit more diffused like that, okay? So we have that. Where's the shadow coming from, or where's the lighting coming from? It's coming from right here. So the opposite sides of these trunks will be our shadows within the trunks, okay? So flip this around, come like this. All right, see that tree right there? It doesn't look like so obvious because I'm not going very dark here, but you can go darker if you want to. Kind of like this. Don't worry if yours doesn't look like mine. Get the concept down again. You know, it's all about kind of the concepts and how to see it, you know what I mean? And then we'll get that execution down, you know, over time. And the mechanics, okay? But get the kind of the mindset of what's going on and what we want to do. And, you know, when we get that down, it'll be easier to employ it as we figure out a way to do that, ideally. But see these trees right here? Where do we put the shadows on this one? Lighting's coming from over here. So the far side of this trunk right here, like this. Look at that. Isn't that fantastic? I love that already. Now, one of the things that we'll do is we'll employ some kind of white ink in here, but I want you to just kind of focus in on the shadows for right now, because that's, you know, that's the big component here. When we create shadows, we're creating lighting, we're creating kind of image weight and mass by saying that these objects aren't see-through. They have visual weight to them, okay? And you can see, I mean, these pieces suddenly have a lot more kind of visual stability with them, okay? And that creates kind of an emotional type of, you know, element within our pieces. When things are a little bit more kind of just outlines or something like that, they don't have that kinesthetic type of visual feel to them. So we want there to be weight on these so that we're not employing just visuals, but you're kind of employing kind of a kinesthetic type of element to the scene. So we're, in other words, you're kind of dipping into another sense, okay? And the more senses we can kind of employ. Now, these are all visual, there's nothing really sensory about it in terms of touch. I mean, this is a piece of paper, but we're creating these textures which, represent types of kinesthetic things. So you do these types of things, and pretty soon we'll kind of start to create this kind of a feeling that you can come almost like hear the location by looking at it just visually, okay? But this is like the first step right here, and it's the easiest thing to do with our pieces in scene, kind of light, okay? So again, just do things like this. And you can utilize different things. If you have like I said, some charcoals or something like that, you can get in there and you really get your hands dirty and kind of move things around. If you get it too heavy too, if you want to, just kind of play around with it. I would say don't fuss about it or something like that. But if you want to play around with it, it wouldn't be bad. You can take it like an eraser and go in here and kind of just smooth out some edges, get a feel for those tools and things like that, and those could be the types of things that we are utilizing there. If you have watercolor pencils, you can kind of create this shading, but do some experimentation, but kind of do it, with this idea in mind here, and that's going to be a really good foundation for, just about, everything else that you do, be it with different media or colors, okay? All right, so Lynn tried to do about 100 of these. I'm just joking. But let me know how it goes. And like I said, don't get fuss about like the mechanics. If you do the stamping yourself, you know what I mean? You don't get really good impressions. Don't worry about it. What we're doing right here is these transitions of the shadows and things like that, and kind of getting the angles down. Specifically with these trees. And the trees like this are ones that I really do that with. A lot of the other images I don't really bother. Anyway, yeah. So that's the first type of thing. And like I said, you can do it on different colors of paper too. This one would look beautiful if it was on like a dark blue paper or so. Let me see. I have one of those somewhere around here. Oh, let me see. Let me pause here for a second. Okay, so here we go. Dark blue paper like this, and that, that moon could be placed somewhere in the scene, but here's those shadows. See that moon right there? And do you see that angle right there? Going right to the center, and you can see that shadow. So there's some light coming through here, which we'll do later, but see that shadow is kind of going in here a little bit. And this is the only tree here, but it's kind of going like that, right? So fun stuff. All right. Lesson number 1. Let me know how it goes. And stay tuned for, I don't know, whatever, lighting and shadows. Lesson number 2 coming up. All right.